Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Wednesday, the 22nd of July. I hope you're having a wonderful week, folks. Yes, it's hump day today. We're halfway through the week. And in the news this morning, Stokes stocks soar. The Warriors are considering SBW. The Rugby League World Cup announced their fixtures. Brumbies have a season-ending injury that's going to cost them. Dr. Ashley Bloomfield is taking it to the rugby pitch, and we also have results from the Sal's NBL as well. But let's kick off with the football. And over in the English Premier League, Watford lost to Man City by 4 goals at home, which means that they are still only 3 points clear of the relegation zone, and we'll be looking out to see how Aston Villa go against Arsenal. Aston Villa only 3 points behind them and in that last relegation spot. So all tight down there. But yes, it's a big ask really for Aston Villa to get the sort of the points in the last 2 games that they require for safety. Up at the top end, and Man United will be taking on West Ham in this round. Leicester City will be watching that one, as will Chelsea, because that would allow Man United to climb above both of them, even if it's only temporary with Chelsea. They're playing Liverpool on as well in this to finish off the round. So yeah, action at both ends of the table. Over in the A-League, or back here in the A-League, we had the Sydney FC getting beaten by Newcastle Jets. Sydney FC currently top of the table on 51 points. Newcastle Jets down in 8th. So yes, a big surprise in that one. Now Sydney are backing up for having played the Phoenix last Friday. So yes, a quick turnaround for them. But I think most teams are going to have to handle that to try and make up all the games during this sort of COVID situation. So tonight we have Perth Glory versus Wellington Phoenix. So big game for Wellington Phoenix, because at the moment their future is in their hands, but they do have to win their games in hand over Melbourne to climb above them in the table into 2nd place. So big game this evening against Perth Glory, who beat Central Coast Mariners on Saturday. I'm going to hand you over to Ashwin, who's going to take us through our cricket update.
Good morning, Paul, and good morning to our listeners and viewers out there in the interweb. And yes, as Paul mentioned, Stokes stocks soar. Ben Stokes has usurped Jason Holder as the #1 Test all-rounder in the ICC Test cricket rankings. Stokes became the first Englishman since Andrew Flintoff, to the top the all-rounder rankings. Stokes also moves to #3 in the ICC Test batting rankings. Also making moves in the Test rankings are Dom Sibley, Sharman Brooks, Roston Chase, and Stuart Broad moved into the top 10 bowlers list. Now remember, Stuart Broad wasn't selected for that first Test. England themselves have moved to #3 in the Test rankings, sitting behind India and Australia. And bad boy Jofra Archer has been cleared to rejoin the England squad. Archer was fined and dropped after breaking biosecurity protocols after taking unauthorised detour from Southampton to Manchester, the venues for the first and second Test matches. Archer spent a mandatory 5 days in isolation in his hotel room, which was followed by 2 COVID-19 tests, both of which came back negative. This provided him the clearance to rejoin the squad. He now comes back into contention for the 3rd Test, the series decider, with the West Indies. Just the news that the West Indies needs to hear. Now, with the postponement of the Men's T20 World Cup, was reported yesterday here on the Morning Sports Briefing, an opening has been created for the IPL. The BCCI are looking to play the 2020 edition of the IPL in the UAE. they are looking to schedule the tournament in a window between the September the 26th and November the 7th. Now, the BCCI have now applied to the Indian government for permission, which they're confident they'll be granted. Now, they've always been planning for holding the T20 in that window, the IPL, I should say, because there was always the suspicion that the World Cup would be cancelled. And finally, a decision on the future of next year's Women's World Cup to be played here in New Zealand will be made in the next 2 weeks. Greg Barclay from New Zealand, the New Zealand Cricket Chair, said a call will be made shortly on whether to delay the 2021 Women's World Cup. The primary issue that they have seems to be around travel arrangements for all of the teams. Now, some of the teams obviously can get direct flights from where they are to New Zealand, but others are going to have to traverse other airports before they can actually make their way to New Zealand. And that seems to be the crux of the problem. So if they can overcome that, I'm pretty sure that the Women's World Cup will go ahead, as the New Zealand government is basically quite supportive of tournaments happening in New Zealand, as can be seen by some of the rugby tournaments that they're planning. Now, the other bonus there is obviously we're one of the few countries in the world, if the only country in the world, that actually can have crowds at the events as well. And that, Paul, is the cricket news for today.
Thank you very much, Ashwin, for bringing us up to date with all of that cricket news. And hand you over to Stephen now, who'll take us through our birthdays this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, and good morning, everybody tuning into New Zealand Sports Radio. Got a real treat for you today. We've got quite a few birthdays to celebrate, so I'm going to get through all these birthdays, some pretty high-profile people in New Zealand sport. And in birthdays today, Israel Adesanya, born this day, the 22nd of July 1989, is a Nigerian New Zealand professional mixed martial artist, kickboxer, and boxer. Adesanya, the current UFC middleweight champion. And we move on. Trent Boult, born this day, the 22nd of July 1989, is a New Zealand international cricketer who plays as a left-arm fast bowler for Northern Districts in New Zealand domestic cricket and New Zealand internationally. Moving right along, Scott Dixon, born this day, 22nd of July 1980, is a professional New Zealand racing driver competing for the Chip Ganassi racing team since IndyCar. Dixon has won the championship 5 times in 2003, 2008, 2013, 2015 and 2018. Staying with motor racing, Craig Bourne, born this day, 22nd of July 1970, in New Zealand, is a retired racing driver who is the driving standards observer for the Australian Supercar Series. And I just want to touch on a couple of other people that are having birthdays today. Stu Wilson, All Black, #772, born this day, 22nd of July 1954. And Gore is a former New Zealand rugby union player, absolute legend. He played for Wellington and New Zealand, captaining the national team on the 83 tour of Scotland and England. He played with the All Blacks as a wing from 76 to 83, scoring 50 tries for his country. He also played 89 matches for Wellington, who he scored 54 tries, a total of 104 first-class tries. He was really the start of the new style winger who would pop up all over the paddock, and a good mate of yesterday's man, Bernie Fraser. They played on the wing together. Also, happy birthday to former Thai international and commentator Willie Losey, and Fijian and Leicester rugby player Isa Nasiwa. I know that was a lot of players, but I really didn't know who to leave out this morning, Paul. So I'll come back to you with a whole lot of league news shortly.
Wow, yes, obviously a popular day today to be born and be famous. God, dear. Yes, a good sporting day to be born on. The 22nd of July, folks. So there you go. If your child has been born today, maybe just that it's a good. You should be looking at what their sporting prowess is. You're listening to New Zealand Sports Radio, and moving on to the rugby union news. And the Crusaders have got a huge loss now for the rest of the season, unfortunately, as David Havili is out for the rest of the season with a broken finger. This is the same injury that Cullen Grace suffered that ended his season as well. It's what they're calling a Bennett's fracture. This is after David Havili had recovered from emergency bowel surgery earlier this year to get back into Super Rugby. Now, And moving on, then this this means that they're missing. Also, Ethan Blackadder will also miss the rest of the season as well. So some injuries there for the Crusaders to have to deal with. The Brumbies also have had a season-ending injury with Noah Lolesio. Their fly half has suffered a hamstring injury in their win over the Waratahs at the weekend, and that will keep him out for the rest of Super Rugby AU, which is a real shame for him. He was having a great debut season and a massive loss for the Brumbies. In the live chat, Hugh Rothwell has asked how many other wingers have captained international sides besides Stu Wilson and Ian Evans. Well, Ndolo has captained Fiji, for example. He springs to mind. So I think there are quite a few wingers who have achieved that result, perhaps more than you actually realise. In some light-hearted news, the annual parliamentary rugby match will be taking place, and Dr. Ashley Bloomfield is part of the squad. He offered himself up as a winger, but has been given the number 7 jersey. So good luck to Dr. Ashley Bloomfield in that game that will be taking place at 2:30. I'm not sure which day it is actually. They haven't said. In Wainemota Rugby Club, and there are a number of ex-All Blacks will be taking part. Piri Wipu and his brother Billy Wipu, as well as Officia Tona'u'u, were all lining up, as well as there were some others, and I just can't find the list now. But so yes, there'll be other ex-internationals playing as well. Yes, if you can get down and enjoy that game, please, obviously do so. I'm going to hand you back to Stephen now.
No, thank you, Paul. Just before I get on to league news this morning, I just want to send our thoughts out to Andy Hayden and his family, the former All Black who played 117 matches, including 41 tests for the All Blacks through the 70s and 80s, is unfortunately gravely ill and has been sent home. We know that Andy had basically a bout of leukemia back in 2003, but it seems like it's returned. So once again, a very, very great player, the first of the real modern huge locks that played rugby during the 70 and very well respected in rugby circles. So our thoughts go out to Andy Hayden and also his family. But I will move right along because there's plenty of league news this morning. In league news, we've got Warriors considering SBW. Todd Payton is the current interim coach of the Warriors, is linked with the Cowboys. The Warriors team is named, and of course overnight the Rugby League World Cup draw was announced, and that's where we'll kick things off this morning. The men's 2021 Rugby League Cup will kick off with hosts England against Samoa at Newcastle's St James Park, and holders Australia against Fiji and Hull's KCOM Stadium on Saturday the 23rd of October. England's women open their tournament against Brazil at Headingley Stadium in Leeds on Monday the 9th of November. The wheelchair tournament starts with a double header on the 11th of November. Spain face Norway in the first game, and England then play Australia. This is a huge moment for the tournament, said its chief executive John Dutton. Fans can look forward to being part of this unique global event with match dates, locations confirmed. The excitement will only intensify. I wish them the very, very, very best. Moving right along, but a Warriors news this morning. The struggling New Zealand Warriors are considering an audacious bid for SBW Williams, but are unlikely to send an SOS to the crosscode superstar. Williams Toronto Wolfpack, as reported yesterday morning, withdrew from the 2020 league season yesterday due to the overwhelming financial challenges caused by COVID-19. The club will return in 2021 and will continue to pay their players 55% of their salaries until the end of the season. So there we have it. We'll watch that story with interest. It's quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it short this morning. Staying with the Warriors interim coach Todd Payten is being targeted by the North Queensland Cowboys, according to the latest Australian media report. And this is accompanied by the claim that ousted Cowboys coach, which we reported yesterday as well, Paul Green, could be a contender to coach the Warriors. Here we go. It's musical chairs. The Telegraph says Payten and Queensland State of Origin coach Kevin Walters are at the top of the North Queensland target list. Payten has been in charge of the Warriors since head coach Stephen Kearney was moved on. There we go. There's also talk about Stephen Kearney being linked with the Broncos. And finally, the Warriors team has been named, and injuries have forced two changes. Injuries have forced two changes, while interim head coach has also made one other switch for the Warriors' 11-round encounter with defending premiers, the Sydney Roosters, at Central Coast Stadium in Gosford on Saturday. Remembering that kickoff is 3 p.m, or that's 5 p.m. New Zealand time. Ruled out a regular starting hooker Wayne Egan with a hip interchange pop, Ignatius Pussy with a shoulder, the latter missing out on an opportunity to make one more final appearance before he returns home on compassionate grounds on Monday, along with Ken Mamalo, David Fusitua, and King Vuniyayawa. With Egan and Pussy out, Payten has shifted the versatile Carl Lawton from the back row to hooker, and utility Chanel Harris Tavita coming on to the bench as dummy half cover. Moved out of the starting lineup after the starting in last Sunday's 10-40-10 loss, 10-46-10 loss to Sharks. Middle forward Adam Blair and centre Patrick Herbert. So I'll quickly go through that full lineup for the Warriors game when I eventually get to it. So starting it in the back line, Tuivasa Sheck, Fusitua, Pompey, Hiku, Mamalo, Nikorima, and Green. In the forwards, we've got Tonoa, Brown, Lawton, Hetherington, Katoa, Harris, and Tavanga. And on the interchange, we've got Harris, Tavita, Blair, Papali, Lachlan Burr, and our reserves, Murchie, Curran, Keegan, and right down the bottom there, we have got Patrick Herbert, who drops back into the reserves. So that's pretty much it for the league this morning. But don't forget to tune in this evening and join the standoff show with both Brad and Sanjay, and they will have a more detailed look on the NRL. And speaking of detail, we'll head back to Paul with the final details of sports news for Wednesday, the 22nd of July on New Zealand Sport Radio.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that update. And we're going to move on to snow sports today. The Cyber Slope Style Challenge is underway currently. So the way this one works is that you video yourself making your freestyle run, and then you can upload it onto the website. Just go to freestyle.snowsports.co.nz. This runs through until August the 3rd. So, folks, do if you're into your freestyle snowboarding or skiing, then snowboarding only, then please upload your video your run and upload it there. Moving on to the Sal's NBL, and overnight we had two games yesterday evening amongst teams at the top end of the table, and the Manawatu Jets beat the Franklin Bulls 99-84, and the Auckland Huskies came short against the Otago Nuggets 83-109. Both those teams now, the Jets and the Nuggets, go top of the Sal's NBL with 12 games down, heading towards the end of the season. Only two more games left, folks, for each team. So they all play 14 each in the regular season. Looking in detail at those games, and for the Jets, it was basically a one-man show. Vodovanovic scored 43 points. For those of you that don't follow basketball, he was the top scorer in this game. The next best was on the Franklin Bulls side was Klimo Poto with 21. So he scored twice as many points as anyone else in this the game, as well as picking up 11 rebounds as well, which was again a game topper, equal with Klimo Poto for the Bulls. The big difference between these two, or the difference between these two sides, was the number of 3-pointers that they put down. The Jets put down 17, whereas the Franklin Bulls could only score 10. Whilst they whilst they outscored the Nuggets with, the Jets with 2-pointers, it was the 3-pointers that decided the game. A similar story in the Huskies versus the Nuggets. Obviously, a bigger margin in this game, but again, 23 pointers. So 23 pointers in the for the Otago Nuggets, with a 57% success rate, compared to only 7 by the Huskies and a 26% success rate. So yes, again, 3-pointers deciding this game. And Hunt was the player to lead the way with 31 points, assisted by Atkinson with 22 and Kenny with 20. For the Auckland Huskies, none of the players really managed to get free and score much. So congratulations to the Nuggets on that win. That means that the Nuggets and the Jets are now top of the table with 16 points, followed closely by the Taranaki Mountaineers on 14. And then the Huskies and the Bulls, the two sides that lost last night, on 12 points. Trailing at the bottom, we have the Nelson Giants and the Canterbury Rams. So yes, tight at the top there. I'd say 2 more games for each team to play. So time is running out for the Huskies and the Bulls in that competition. Don't forget, folks, you can listen to New Zealand Sports Radio on the go. Just download the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Acast. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio. And you have now started the day the best way, up to speed with all of the important sports news. Don't forget, you can join us again tomorrow at 7 a.m. here on our Facebook page, bringing you the live morning sports briefing.